Hey y'all, firearms inspection and troubleshooting coming right up. What is up, everybody? Benjamin here with B-Jamen Studios, and I'm going to be covering the last overview video for the first semester there at SDI. So, a brief recap: the first semester includes the first 8 weeks. It's intro to firearms and basic ballistics, and then as soon as those two classes are done, you roll straight into firearms finishing and engraving, or finishes and engraving. Firearms inspection and troubleshooting, which is what we're going to look at today. And then on the 5th week of those classes, that's when they add in the gunsmithing tools lab, the one we looked at earlier this week. So, what comes in the box? What can you expect to get? I believe I covered this in the first semester at SDI video, but you get some Permablue brand bluing compound, and aluminum plate, some filter screws, a tap, a spiral flute screw extractor, a couple different sizes, jobber drill bits, some digital calipers, a tap handle, center drill, and then the lab book for the class, and they also give you the latest edition of the Shooter's Bible. The lab book, though, is not called Firearms Finishing and Engraving Lab Book. It is called the Fastener Repair Lab. And it's called Fastener Repair Lab because your final project that you'll do in the class involves you taking that aluminum plate, punching and tapping some holes, screwing these screws into it, and then fixing them. So, but week one, you have a practical assignment, like straight out the gate, week one. So, firearms troubleshooting and inspection, or inspection and troubleshooting. The number one thing you have got to know with any firearm is how to make it safe. I feel like that's kind of like a duh thing, but so literally you just make a video of you with whatever firearm you choose, and you record yourself making that firearm safe to work on. And the big thing, I want to say they tell you this in the instructor guidance, but they want you to say every step you're doing. So when you first get it, you might say, locking the bolt back to check the chamber, removing the source of ammunition to, move the mag if that requires. You talk every step that you're actually doing. Talk through every step. Golly, I can't talk today. So that's what you do for week one, and then weeks 2 through 8 or 7. At that point, you have a worksheet that you'll do every week. That's kind of like your assignment. So this class, you literally have one assignment, and that's on week 7. If you count your practical application, that would be an assignment. But anyways, when I think of assignment with SDI, I think of something I have to type up or a video to make. So with those worksheets, they give you a scenario. Let's say you're a gunsmith at a gun shop, and a customer brings in their Remington 700, and they say, "Here's the problem I'm having." So then at that point, you start diagnosing it based off what you're reading. You say what you would first do, and it gets very redundant in some ways, because you start out almost every one of these worksheets by saying, "Oh, the first thing I do is I would make sure the firearm is free and clear of any ammunition before I'm going to look at it." You just plug and play with that first part, right? And then you would say, the first thing I would do, especially if it's not obvious what's wrong with the firearm, maybe you would just make sure it's been cleaned properly, because we all know the biggest issue with firearms most of the time, number one, is human error, and number two, it's a dirty firearm. So maybe you talk yourself through those, but then they kind of guide you towards the answer they want you to come to. And what I mean by that is they might say what you would first inspect after your initial, or first check maybe after your initial inspection. And you might say, "Oh, well, let's say the issue was the gun don't go bang," right? So it's a failure to fire, because you're going to have their lingo and you're going to have to put it in gunsmith lingo. So we got a failure to fire. Okay. So maybe the first thing you check after you clean the firearm is you want to inspect the firing pin, or something like that. So you would write that down. I would check this. I would make sure it's within specs, or whatever. And then maybe the next part of the worksheet they say, well, okay, so let's assume after your, initial inspection, you saw that this part of the fire control group needs to be replaced or it's worn. And then, so they say, source this part, so you could write up a summary to give it to the customer, say, hey, here's the part. And a lot of times you'll write up a summary almost as if you're communicating through email, like to this customer. Here's the part, here's what's wrong, here's the part, here's how much it's going to be. So that's what I mean by they kind of guide you. They don't give you the answer, but they kind of do. So there you go. Anyway, so you have 7 weeks of that. And then on week 7, you also have a separate application, or not separate application, you have a separate assignment. And then week 8 is when you actually do the fastener repair part here. So that's pretty cool because that's the first time I've ever used any bluing compound. So with the stripped one, you have to, use a file and make that sort of how I fix it. I stripped it out real good, and then I got a file and I just made it a thicker flathead slot. So, and then I used my permanent blue and I re-blued it and gave it its finish back. So there we go. Overall, y'all, it's a lot of fun. I finished up this class with a 98.89, and that's just plug and play, right? Reading the instructor's guidance. The same thing I tell y'all. The biggest thing I would say is don't get overwhelmed and don't let your work pile up on you. Try it. I get it. Life happens. Sometimes maybe you have to wait until Friday, Saturday and try to cram it all in. But some people have asked me what my schedule looks like, and if you get on the Facebook page for the students of SDI, some people ask, what does your schedule look like? For me, Mondays, I read everything I needed to read so I could do my discussion post. Tuesdays, I went ahead and did an assignment for one of the classes. Wednesday, assignment for another class. Thursday, discussion post replies and quizzes. And if I did that every single week, then more than likely, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is free. My weekend's free. And maybe that's not a big deal to you. My wife, I have 2 kids, so I want the weekend free so we can go and do what we want to do. If, like I said, life happens. A lot of times I had to wait till Friday, Saturday to focus on school, but I tried my very best to have school done before Sunday. Sunday, I want to focus on church. I want to relax. I want to focus on my family. The last thing I want to do is be up at midnight Sunday night trying to submit an assignment before, which in my time zone, by 2:59 in the morning on Monday. So just try to stay on track and don't get overwhelmed and don't procrastinate. Don't let it pile up. Anyways, so that's the overview of the firearms inspection and troubleshooting. And that wraps up the first semester at SDI. So next week we'll be diving into the second semester and what that looks like. A lot of people want to know what the gap between first and second semester is. It's a week. You got a week off. And then you get to go right back in it. So it really is a whole lot. I mean, that week off fell at a good week for us. For me, at least. I was getting ready to leave and go on a trip. So I got to do everything I needed to before that. So anyways, hope you guys have a good one. We will see you in the next one.